you're about to hear is the fusion of entertainment and enlightenment. This is the Glenn Beck Program.
Hello, America. I want to have a conversation with you regarding the headlines just from this weekend and what we all feel is going on. I think we all know something isn't right. And it's easy to say it's the Democrats, it's the Republicans. Did you hear about the shooting this weekend in Portland? They just executed a Trump supporter. Just executed him. It wasn't a fight. It wasn't a riot. It was an execution. We'll have more on that here in just a second. There's also a video out, shows a man in the subways in New York just trying to rape this woman, and no one does anything but film it. No one. Or the black man that walked into the AutoZone and just killed the employee because he needed to find a white man to kill. Or the activist in Wisconsin that stood up in front of the crowd, was one of the selected speakers, and said, "It's open season on white people. It's time we start killing yours." Times have changed, America, and a clarion call in 60 seconds. I'm going to talk to you here. I'm going to say some things out loud that no thinking human would ever say out loud for a myriad of reasons. Nobody says these things in public. But that's my job. I just want to recap before we move forward. If you've listened for a long time, you know I warned New Yorkers on WABC that bodies, blood, and buildings would be in the streets of Manhattan, and the mastermind would be Osama bin Laden, and I said that in 99. The financial crisis of 08 didn't surprise you because I warned in strongest terms beginning in 06. I told you the Fed would print money eventually, our credit would be downgraded, and the Fed would eventually buy all of our debt. That was crazy. They're doing it now. The Arab Spring, I warned, would be the catalyst for a caliphate. Turned out to be called ISIS. I was mocked for that before ISIS. I told you we were even funding and arming them through Benghazi. Nobody else told you that. In 2010, I began telling you the unrest would sweep into Europe and eventually make it to our shores, where the communists, socialists, anarchists, and Islamists would all work together to destabilize America and the Western world. That one day the coming insurrection would be put right here on the streets to intimidate, to cause chaos in our cities, and the hatreds of the 1930s would become reality once again. I told you about the labor union's role in the past and what we're seeing now on the streets. I told you about the Bubba effect, which we experienced this weekend in Portland, Chicago, and Wisconsin. I told you we were passing all of the exits, and eventually trust would implode to a point where we wouldn't know who to believe. Trust would be absent in the list of government, media, tech, finance, justice, cops, corporations, unions, EDU. We together have warned our neighbors that our history is being lost, not exactly lost, more destroyed, stolen, erased. And we had to do everything we could to plant it deep into the hearts of our children. But it would become increasingly difficult because of the systems and the attitudes that produced things like Common Core. You're not surprised by the tech takeover of free speech, or their surveillance, or the latest displacement of jobs, even now because of COVID, as cities begin to collapse due to tech changing our world. You won't be surprised if you listen to this show when the banks close to reset and open with a new currency because the dollar eventually will be worthless. I've been mocked and ridiculed and at every step told to shut up, to not warn you, that it would destroy what little reputation I had left after Soros and Media Matters ravaged my name, but that's okay. This isn't my job. I believe this is my calling, and I'm unfortunately not here to fix things, because I've tried. I'm not here to give you political analysis. I'm here to tell you who to vote, because that doesn't work. It's not good. That's me. What I'm here to do is sound the trumpet, to warn you of what is just over the horizon that no one else will tell you. It's not a fun job, but like the role you play or will play in the coming days, weeks, years, it's a role that is a small piece in a very big puzzle, but all pieces need to be on the table. And it's a puzzle that man has watched snapped into place for thousands of years. And it's that puzzle that I want to talk to you about. Somewhere in the back of your mind, if you're a living, thinking, breathing being, and I don't mean just on the right, I mean on the left too, you know that things aren't okay. They aren't normal. Many of us have this feeling we're headed towards something not good. It's natural. For something as precious as freedom and liberty, there's a high price tag on that. And when you actually possess it, it makes sense that there would be some sort of warning or alarm bell on it that would go off when our rights are being stolen. What is it? It's a fuzzy picture, I think, for a lot of people, but I want to help point out some solid lines around it so you can get a sense of exactly what it is. But right now you're feeling that maybe we're controlled by liars, whether those liars are politicians and journalists, or strangely other politicians and journalists. Maybe you feel like our churches are impotent and lost their way. Our schools have become indoctrination camps, focused more on the teacher's interpretation of morality instead of math and writing. Even religious schools now are teaching the interpretation of the morals of the state or the teachers' union rather than that of God, the church, or religion. You might feel that justice today is liquid, that there is no equal or blind justice. Prosecution now starts in the media, and what follows in the courts is a result of that pretrial. Innocent are persecuted, and criminals are released to walk among us. Maybe you see the institution of the family that we've known for thousands of years falling apart into a hookup world where relationships are a left or right swipe. Porn is mainstream. Single women freeze their eggs for later, and children are now a community's responsibility rather than a parent's. A lot of people don't feel they're in control of their country anymore. Maybe you don't feel like you're in control of even your own destiny anymore. You might feel like it doesn't matter who gets elected anymore. The best they can do is help the pieces fall more slowly. I think that's what Trump is doing. And I think that's a good thing. I believe he is doing his best to help gird the foundations of this nation. But the malady we suffer is not one that can be fixed by one man alone or a politician. If you felt any of these things, I want you to know this. A, you're right. It's not your imagination. Whether you're on the left or the right, it's not your imagination. Something's very wrong. 2, you're not alone. You are not the only one feeling this. And 3, this is the difficult beginning of a new era. It's not the end of the world, but it is a new era. I mean, maybe that is why leftists feel that climate change is going to cause the end of the world, because they can feel the barometric pressure falling out as the pages turn and a new chapter begins. Maybe that's why 2020 has become its own ominous meme. People realize it's not a plague that's befallen on us. It is a blanket of darkness being lowered over our lives. Has anybody noticed the forces of evil are at full steam? That every abortion that can be had will be met by a knife? Every perversion is celebrated? Every effort to keep the common sense of old, and quite honestly, where that common sense came from, the Word of God, is being inundated with charges of hate and intolerance. I've told you before that we are passing all the exits, and the bridge is out just ahead. Well, we've crossed that Rubicon. I believe we have passed a threshold put there by our Maker. I want to tell you what that means in 60 seconds.